quick introduction this morning. So thanks for joining us for Adventures in Fargo. The WVLS Scholarship team reports on 2016 Association for Rural and Small Libraries Conference. This webinar is presented by the Wisconsin Valley Library Service. Wisconsin Valley Library Service offers an annual scholarship to a director or branch manager of a member public library to attend the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, known as ARSL National Conference. The ARSL Conference is specifically targeted for rural library staff. This year, the National ARSL Conference was held in Fargo, North Dakota on October 27th through the 29th. Information and application materials for the annual WVLS ARSL Scholarship can be found at WVLS.org. So just a quick note, this webinar does not offer any continuing education credits. This webinar is meant to be a report of resources for WVLS and other libraries around the state. There will be a few minutes at the end of the presentation for questions and conversation. So, the 2016 WVLS ARSL Scholarship winners and this morning's speakers are, we have Tammie Blomberg, she's the director of the Rib Lake Public Library, Audrey Kohlbeck, branch manager of the Marathon County Public Library in Spencer, and Denise Korenuk. Did I say that right? You did. Nailed it. Director of the Western Taylor County Public Library over in Gilman. Heiding is also pictured here. She is the director of the Granton Community Library. She also attended as a winner of the annual ARSL Scholarship, so not a WVLS scholarship, but she was unable to attend this morning. So I think first up, we have Tammie Blomberg from Rib Lake.
Hello. First thing I need to do is apologize. I am just getting over viral pneumonia. I was actually sick through the entire conference, and I still have the clearing my throat and coughing going on, so excuse me ahead of time. And that's also why in the pictures you see I'm trying to smile. I was doing my best. I'm going to try to keep it short and go, but there was so much information. I titled mine Information Overload or something to that effect because I had so much trying to fit into this. The first seminar that I went to that I want to talk about is the top tips for patron technology training. And there are eight tips that they gave us, and I'll just touch on all of them. All the slides for this and anything, a lot of you could find at the ARSL website. There's links to a lot of the slideshows, the resources, information on how to contact the people that did put on the workshops, and you can get a lot of information there. And first one, though, from the technology training is to self-identify as a technology trainer. You are a trainer. It's part of your job. It's just get used to it and admit that you're training in technology. Also, measure your own progress. Just look at how far you've come and how much you've learned since technology started coming out. And also take deliberate actions to keep progressing. Keep learning and don't stop because technology is not going to stop, so you can't either. You're going to have to keep up with it. If a patron comes in and you have no idea what they're talking about or what you're doing, just take a couple of slow, deep breaths and relax and say, okay, we're going to figure this out. Narrate your process. Tell them what you're doing. Don't just do it for them. Tell them what you're doing. Show them what you're doing. And again, even if you don't know what you're doing, say, well, here's the help button over here. Let's see what this says. And just talk them through it, what you're doing. Focus on quality, not quantity. You're not going to get them, if they sit down at the computer and don't know how to turn the computer on, you're not going to have them with a Facebook page in a half hour. Just focus on a little bit, get them going on it, show them a few things, and, you know, hopefully they're happy enough that they come back and want to learn more. Find the teachable moment. This may not be it. You may need to just give them a little bit and send them on the way, or they might not even know that you're going to teach them something today. You come in and see a moment where I can explain this to them, and then they can do it on their own next time. Be a guide, not a doormat. You're here to teach them, show them, educate them. Don't do it for them. Don't let them monopolize your time. You have other things to do. So don't let them walk all over you. You have other things to do. Just, help them out as much as you can. And then create a technology resource guide. You can find templates from other places and modify them. You can keep adding to it, change it. But it helps so much if you can just hand them the guide. And again, they're learning, you're teaching them, and you're helping them out by just handing them the guide and getting them going. So I think that's all I have for that one. So we can go to the next slide. This one was really interesting to me. I had just taken active shooter policy. I had just taken my concealed carry class the week before, so I was really interested in this. I was really hoping that it wouldn't just be on writing a policy, that it would be more tips for dealing with an active shooter, and it was an excellent workshop. I really enjoyed it. A lot of information. I think I could talk for a half an hour just on this alone. It shows, what your plan should include: communication plan, evacuation plan, gathering place, and lockdown plan. My best suggestion with this is to make sure that you involve your local law enforcement in planning this. They need to know what you're going to do, and you need to know what they're going to do. They need to know where you're going to be evacuating from. You need to know where they're coming in. Couple of tips are to have a duress button at every desk. Hopefully, you can have it go directly to law enforcement agency. So if you press the duress button, it goes directly to them. If not, have it go to another part of the building so they can get help, that they can plan. They can help you out, call for help. Yeah, but the best option is to have it to go right to the local law enforcement. I know in smaller communities that's probably not an option, and your law enforcement may be farther away. In Rib Lake, we have one part-time police officer, so he's not always there. Even though the police station's right in our building, the chance of something happening when he's there is slim. So we would want ours to go to another part of the building, hopefully Village Hall, or they can call. Do not announce where you're going. Do not announce where you're hiding. If you announce everybody evacuate through the south doors, all an active shooter has to do is stand there and pick people off as they're coming out the doors. He knows right where you're going, and everybody else does. Don't say, everybody hide in the bathrooms. You don't say where you're going. One key they gave in the workshop was to have a code name for different floors, different parts of the buildings. They used colors. So if they said purple over the loudspeaker, everybody knew to go to the third floor. It was, and so they had a code. They also did a lot of drills, just like you would do a fire drill or a tornado drill. They did a lot of drills. They practiced. The key for active shooter is to run, hide, or fight. And with this, if you can get out, you get out. If you can hide, you hide. If fighting is your last resort, if you fight, don't stop, because the fact is that most active shooters are not expecting to escape alive. This is hard stuff to hear, hard stuff to deal with, but they're not expecting to get out of it alive. So there are no rules. They're not going to play fair, either do you. Anything you see or can throw is a weapon. And so that's your last resort. Also, another thing that was really hard to hear with this is that if you can take people with you, if you're trying to get out and you can take people with you, take them. Some people freeze and will not move, and you're going to have to leave them behind. You have to get out if you can. The same if there are injured people. If they can move them, but you don't know the extent of their injuries, and you could do more harm than good by trying to move them. If the police show up, when the police show up, do what they say. They don't know who the shooter is. So if they say lay down on the floor, you lay down, put your hands up, do whatever they tell you, because all they know is there's an active shooter. They don't know who it is, and so just cooperate. Another thing I want to touch on quick is, this is really interesting to me. A lot of you probably have the notice like you see on there with the no guns allowed. Mm-hmm. I was surprised to find out that is only a suggestion. There are certain places in Wisconsin and where you cannot carry a gun at all. Libraries are not one of them. If you see somebody, if somebody, a patron says there's somebody in here carrying a gun, if there's somebody in here carrying a gun, you can go and talk to them, and you can say, excuse me, we really don't like guns in here. Do you have a permit? It's making us uncomfortable. You can ask them to leave, but if they don't leave and you end up calling the police on them and it turns out they're legal and carrying, the worst that's going to happen to them is they're going to get a trespassing ticket for not leaving when you ask them to leave. So, my thought is you probably have people carrying in the library every day that you have no problem with. So do you really want to cause problems with a good patron who's not causing any problems and carrying legally? I was surprised to hear that. I thought the sign meant no guns were allowed, but it's only a suggestion. So, next slide. Modifiable music and movement. This one was a lot of fun. We made maracas out of the little cheap plastic Easter eggs, and then used colored duct tape. We put some corn inside, colored duct taped them shut, and made little maracas for the kids. We also played with kazoos, which are really good for the muscles around your mouth and for speech, for help with speech and strengthening the muscles as well as with rhythm and music. But we did that. Why should you offer music and movement? It's good for your health. Bodies need activity. It gets the kids moving, channels their energy into a constructive place, so they're doing something fun but also moving. It enhances cognitive functions. It helps with memorization, memorizing songs, learning numbers, letters. So, of course, literacy skills with that too. You're learning numbers, singing B-I-N-G-O, learning spelling. It develops motor skills, again, the dancing, fine motor. Also, if you're doing finger plays, such as the itsy bitsy spiders and things like that, gross motor, where you're doing the bigger ones with hokey pokey and bunny hop. So, it also does a lot with preparing the children for school. Social skills, you're learning to take turns, you're learning to share, work together as a team. Sometimes it's teamwork where you have to work with somebody else, and it just helps with, preparing them for school and the social skills. It introduces STEM concepts, which was kind of interesting to me. Excuse me. I was trying to figure out how math and everything gets in there, but just the rhythm and abstract concepts makes you think out of the box, rhythm and counting. And so I was surprised to learn that it actually introduces some basic STEM concepts at the beginning preschool age. And then just pure joy. It's fun. We had so much fun just in that room, just being goofy and playing with hitting the sticks together and shaking the maracas. And, you know, I think we played Happy Birthday to somebody on the kazoos. And so just fun. Who doesn't have fun with music and movement? So. Let's have fun. Patty McNally. I thought that was going to be about programming and more programming choices, but it was about taking the boredom out of training and staff meetings. And we were talking about a bunch of different ways just to make staff, to motivate staff and help them relax and get along better. We talked about having a potluck with your training session. Birthday recognitions. If you have a staff meeting every month, also recognize all the birthdays at one time at the staff meeting. Having casual days. A lot of us already do this. I keep threatening to have it's a cosplay. Instead of casual day, I keep threatening to have a cosplay day at the library. Do an employee of the month. Even if you just rotate, you don't have to have it as a competition, but do an employee of the month. Just make sure the same person isn't winning every month or losing every month. And do a lot of friendly competitions. We discussed having the white elephant gift game. Go to the dollar store, get a bunch of cheap prizes and wrap them up. The white elephant gift game is the one where you have all the gifts in the middle of the table, and everybody draws numbers. Person with number 1 gets to pick a gift. And person number 2 can either pick a gift or take the gift away from person number 1, and it keeps going. And then when you're done, you get the prize that you're left with. Scavenger hunts around the library. This can help a lot with staff training. Finding books of a certain subject, finding different things. You can do it with websites. You can do an online scavenger hunt. Or this would be good with the tech training to find different sites to help people to learn about different things for technology training with your patrons. This is what I liked. Guess the top books of the year. Have each of the staff members pick what they think were the top circulating books in your library, and then see who wins. One of the most circs wins. So they have to kind of guess what they think, which books they thought went out the most, and then give a prize to the one with the most circs. And then we talked about policy trivia. And I thought I also went to a workshop on using Kahoot, and that would work really well with doing policy trivia, because policies are so exciting, and everybody wants to read their policy manual. So we thought doing a Kahoot policy trivia game. And for those of you that don't know, Kahoot is an online source where you have a trivia game, and then your cell phones, tablets, iPads turn into your way to enter your answer. So, and again, I went to a whole workshop on that, and that's really useful in education situations. And so you can use Kahoot to do policy trivia. So. Out and about, quick. Oh, we had fun. Kay Heiting and I went out and we did some quirky stuff. The sushi down on the right, we did a dine around. I think all of us went to the dine around at the Drunken Noodle. It was my first time ordering a whole plate of sushi. I'd sampled a few different things, but I got to order my own sushi and figure out what I wanted. And I tried California roll because I figured that was a safe one, and then I went with spicy salmon just to be a little more adventurous. Fargo has a Walk of Fame, and I got Barney and Kiss there to show the wide range of things. The Kiss one is broken, and it's interesting because the sign there tells you that it was actually moved from a different place. And when they moved them, some of the blocks got broken, so they were had to put them back together like puzzle pieces. We found a Space Alien Bar and Grill, which was a lot of fun, and we said we wanted to eat something quirky that we couldn't get around here. That was definitely quirky, and we couldn't get it around here. Top left is the wood chipper from Fargo. That one's outside, and it is the stand-in for the real wood chipper. The real wood chipper was inside the building behind me in the visitor center, which was closed when we were there. That's a good photo op too. But outside, this one was the double, the stand-in double for the original Fargo wood chipper, and that was our out and about in Fargo, and that's all I've got. I think now Audrey gets to talk.
Thanks, Tammy. Up next we have Audrey Kohlbeck, and she's the branch manager from Spencer.
Hi. I found this all to be more than what I ever thought it would be going to this. I have to say sometimes the choices where to go were kind of hard to choose, and they were all very interesting. I will say right up front there was one that I went to, and it was called Elbow Room, and 90% of us who went to it thought Elbow Room was if you were in a small library how to make more room and arrangement. They were actually talking about how to build a library, which, like I said, most of us sat there and went, oh. But the only interesting thing I'll say about that is I learned that Wisconsin sets the bar for other states for the guidelines for building library. They use Wisconsin guidelines. So that's all I got out of that, and that's all I'll say about that. Was the only poor choice on my part. Jody Bach, author of Own Your Own Story, was, I believe, our first keynote speaker we had the first day, and I could have listened to her for hours. She just had a way about her of speaking. She has written a book, Own Your Own Story. She started out talking about growth only happens when you step outside your comfort zone. I think a lot of people really have problems with that. I know I for one, have to think about stepping outside the comfort zone, and if you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. You need to try other things, and they're not always going to work. You're not always going to succeed, but you tried by stepping out, and you learned from that, and you did grow. And you, and only you, own your reputation, and growth will happen until you die. That is just something that you hold your destiny in your own hands. You continue and learn until you die, and if you don't, you're not doing anything. You're sitting there. She talked about taking chances, trying new things, and not being afraid to try the new things, even if they seem impossible. This quote that she gave, what other people think of you is not your business. She had to repeat that one a couple of times, and I'm kind of glad she did because I had to let it sink in. What other people think of you is not your business. She talked about just being happy with yourself, and don't always worry and wonder what other people think of you. And you think during the day how many times you even, like in the library, you wonder what they thought of you, or was that the right thing to say? But I think it's more important, and what she was trying to tell us is, what do you think of yourself? Don't worry what that other person thought of you, but what did you actually think of yourself? I think on the next slide is the 7 different levels of energy. You can spend a lot of time as being the victim. Oh, poor me. Oh, I'm the only person that this happened to. I'm sure nobody in the world ever had this happen to before. That is using your energy on self-pity. There's energy that you can use on responsibility. If something happens, you can turn that energy into responsibility, and what am I going to do to fix it, and how will this get better if I fix it? Passion compassion is just be true to yourself and believe in yourself. And I think that's a real calming energy, just to think about yourself. Maybe it's being a little selfish in a way, but be true to yourself and believe that you can do it. And even, like I said before and she talked about, is you try. Believe that you can try it. Anger, my life is horrible and I'm mad. That is a lot of energy using up just to be mad, and use that anger, that energy, to go back to what will I do and be responsible for it. And joy is a happy energy, of course. Just sometimes taking that little bit of time and just being happy. And peace, it is what it is. And that happens a lot, I think, when a situation happens that's totally out of your control. Just to say, it is what it is. And I know I use that line a lot. It is what it is. There's some things that are totally out of your control, and it is what it is. Compassion is a great energy, I think, to use on somebody else, especially maybe if they have the anger or the victim part. Oh, I've been there, and compassion with somebody and saying, I've been there, and trying to help them get to the peace of it is what it is. And it all could be kind of connected in a way. So you can gain new perspective, Jody talked about, by asking yourself, what do you want, and what are you going to do to get it, and how well is it working? And what can I do differently? How can you change a circumstance? How can you just change it? And am I doing something that's really working well, and can I move on that, or am I just doing this? And what can I do to get it? It's a thought process that you really have to sit down and sometimes you really have to think about it. She ended up with this Serenity Prayer that I thought was just so great. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it is me.
Can I add, my favorite, well, one of my favorite quotes, I really liked her too, but my favorite quote from that I took away from that was, the only difference between a grave and a rut are the dimensions. I really liked that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, Jody Bach, I could have listened to her for hours. Her website is up there. She had some books. Denise said she read them. They were very good. And I could have listened to her for a long, long time. So the next one I went to was Lost Your Library Mojo, which I think was my favorite one. D.L. Fancy was just a hoot. She talked about what is burnout. Burnout is defined as physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion caused by long-term involvement. She talked about even if you love your job, you can have burnout. It doesn't necessarily mean because you have burnout because you're bored and I just don't want to do this anymore. You can love your job and still have burnout that you need to take a little time away. How do you notice if there's burnout? Look if you've been finding excuses to come to work late. Have you been making those dentist appointments actually during work time on purpose? Are you missing little things? Are your lunch hours getting to be a little long? Do you feel empty and frustrated? Do you feel like you're just not doing what you should? Nothing seems to be going right. These are all signs of burnout. Some causes for burnout could be the budget. If you don't have what you need because of the budget, because you don't have this or that, whatever it may be because of the budget, or heavy workload. I think we all feel that at times, just the I can't get this all done. How am I supposed to get this all done? I've got deadlines for this. I got deadlines for this. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the month and I got to do this. Difficult patrons is another one. If you continuously have that same patron, for example, coming in that's just the one that you just bite your lip, smile, that can cause burnout. Tech problems, if you're dealing with technology and it's not working and you've tried it every way that you know how to and trying to get the help, that can cause burnout. Lack of recognition for your work. I think that's important to be recognized. I know we started doing more recognition in Marathon County Library. We started doing more if somebody does something good, saying it and just getting that back feed that, hey, somebody really said that you did good and somebody said that they were just stuck on a little problem and just needed somebody to talk through, just getting that recognition. Never having enough time to finish a project could also cause burnout. Take time for self-compassion. She said you should give yourself a hug every day. She said you might look crazy sitting there giving yourself this big old hug, but give yourself a hug every day and count your blessings. Stop and think what you did do good at work, what is good at work, and maybe just things at home. Count your blessings at home. Another thing she talked about was standing up every 30 minutes. Stand up, walk around. Don't be staring at that computer. Stand up, walk to the other side of the building, walk away. Cleaning your desk. If you got a desk that when you walk in you can't find a pencil on it because papers are everywhere, try to straighten your desk a little bit. You'll feel more organized, which helps you to work better. Coming into a desk, and she said even if you do it on a weekly basis, that you come in Monday morning, when you come in Monday and you look at your desk like, oh my gosh, where did I leave off? What did I do? Try organizing your things and see if you don't feel a little bit less overwhelmed and a little bit more organized. Stretching also she talked about helping, and she actually showed us some stretches where you twisted at your waist and you took your arms and you actually hit, when you twisted, swinging your arms to your back, your kidneys by going like this, and it releases something off of your kidneys that helps you relax. And so that was one, and bending at the waist and making like a fist and just pounding on your legs all the way down as far as you can reach and pounding, it relaxes you. She just stood there going all the way down the outside of your leg and then pounding all the way up and then standing and stretching and doing it a few times is a relaxing method. So I found her, she was great. Gail was just funny. I actually saw her at the Fargo airport as I flew out that day, and our plane was delayed, and she was half asleep, and then she stood up, and there she was, beating on her legs and beating on her kidneys. So she apparently practiced what she preaches. So did you have anything to add to that, Denise? To that? You can.
I can touch on that later.
Okay. My next slide here was partnering with libraries to financially empower patrons, and Mr. McDonald was from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He pointed out that people, especially in rural areas, don't know where to go for unbiased advice, and that many people in rural areas really need financial advice, and they don't want to go to the place that, oh, we're going to say stick all your money here, they want to go to somebody that just knows finances, not necessarily backed by one person or the other. This I found so interesting. 56% of people do not have a retirement plan. 47% only pay their interest on a credit card. 32% only pay the minimum, and 26% use alternative borrowing to pay their bills. I thought that was really interesting how the finances are broke down in our country. He talked about maybe rural libraries could talk to local politicians or mayors, that might be a way to going to them and seeing if they would have somebody just in their hands or in their community or somebody that would talk that's unbiased, maybe some treasurer or something, Also, going to a local university, there's a lot of seniors who could use this as a senior project just to give unbiased opinions on how to help with money. They could probably, the seniors doing it could probably use it for credit in their school, he thought. On the next slide, he talked about Money as You Grow book club. It's the consumerfinance.gov library resources. This was a good one. He talked about it never being too young to talk to your kids about money and concept of how money works. He talked about even if you're in the grocery store and you're showing your kids like, okay, I can either buy this can of this and this can of this. To me, it makes no difference, but this one is 35 cents cheaper. That's why we're taking this one, as it doesn't make any difference. That website, consumerfinance.gov, library resources, also talked about, will help you with identity theft, auto loans. All of a sudden you just notice that your loan rates are going up, credit reporting, and savings. If you go to the consumerfinance.gov complaints, that website is used for complaints with credit cards. If you have something always on your credit card that doesn't belong, payday loans, money transfers, and many more. Those are if you have complaints about those things. And there's a phone number there, 855-411-2372, that you can actually call them and talk to them about your complaints. Very interesting man, Mr. McDonald. My next class I went to was Staying Safe, De-escalation Techniques, which probably went along a lot with the active shooter that Tammy talked about. The three types of attackers are the con. The con is the guy that's walking down the street and he's just going to be Mr. Friendly and ask for directions. And you get to chit-chatting and, oh, this is a nice man, he's just lost. Your defense goes down, and that's when they attack. The blitz is direct and an immediate assault. And your surprise attacker is when they hide behind trees, hide behind bushes, if you're out for a run, hiding in the back seat of your vehicle, and they usually carry a weapon. She talked about in the library, if you come across somebody that's really irate, try to talk to them. Tell them you understand. Even if you don't, you understand. Try to sympathize with them. And yes, I get this. Be on their side. Try to talk them down. Predators, she said, look for people who don't make eye contact. His head is down when you walk, poor posture, and not paying attention. She said when she walks down the streets of Fargo, she just wants to walk down the street and slap everybody's cell phone out of their hands because they're just walking and looking at their cell phone. Be aware of your surroundings. She talked about a good method of attack is using the heel of your hand or your elbow. Those are the best things to use, and target their nose, their eyes, or their throat. Follow through. Restrike again and again. Scream and yell while you're hitting them. Keep that heel, keep your elbow, and keep screaming and keep hollering. If you're in a library, use books or carts as weapons. Grab the books, throw them, take the carts, throw them. If you seem confident, they are less likely to attack. When you start to fold, they think they have you. She talked about black belt librarian who actually Marathon County Library had talked to him, and she mentioned him that was so, he was a wonderful speaker. Jessica White noticed, this was something that is very possible to actually pop out somebody's eyes. And when she said that, everybody was like, ew, and grossing out. And she said, no, you can use your thumb and push in their eye, and you can actually pop out their eyes. And when everybody groaned, she said, when you're fighting for your life, you'll be surprised how nothing at that point seems grotesque. And her final words of wisdom was, win the fight, win the fight. And my last one was from Chicken Little to Fred Astaire, and she gave examples. It was a pair, and they did a lot of role playing. If you have a patron, fight fight behavior, getting mad, telling them they're wrong. So if you have a patron who comes in and says, I have this book and I know I returned it, it shouldn't be late, and you just get mad and say, you're wrong, obviously, look at the due date slip, you are wrong, I am right. That's the fight method. Flight is flight behavior, totally agreeing no matter what, letting them make the final decision. Patron comes in and says, this book should be banned, this is a bad book for teenagers, and you go, oh, okay, I'll take it off. You become their doormat. There has got to be a happy medium between that. They talked about handle conflict with grace, honesty, and direct and respectful connection. And I guess their final point was, when you have conflict with someone, slide across the conflict like Fred Astaire slides across Baldwin's floor.
My take, I was also at that one, and my takeaway quote from that one was, you're not trying to win the argument, you're trying to win the patron. You don't need to win the fight, you want the patron to come back. And that was what I took away from that.
So they talked about, yeah, just finding the happy medium. Don't be the doormat, but don't come out swinging like a boxer. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you, Audrey. And finally, we have Denise.
Good morning. And the first thing I guess I would like to say is I'd just like to thank WVLS for allowing us to have this opportunity, because as a director of a tiny community of about 400 people, I would never have been able to have dreamed. I didn't even think that I was going to be able to attend something like that, and to be able to go out to Fargo. Never been to Fargo, never been to North Dakota. And I guess the other assumption I had was, you know, it's got to be crop farms, you know, culturally not sure. And it was amazing, and a lot of diverse people. I guess for me, the seminars were wonderful, the sessions were wonderful, the speakers were great. I think the most thing that I got out of it was meeting directors that are in similar situations to myself. So for me, making the connections with other people and being in a coffee shop with them and sitting down and talking and just carrying on a conversation and saying, hey, let's hook up on Facebook. So I've made probably 6 new friends that I wouldn't have known before, and new directors. Most of them were new directors, and, you know, I've been here 7 years. So
and it was just also relevant to what we deal with, even though some of the libraries were pretty huge for what I consider, but it was also relevant to us, the things that we could really just take away and use. So.
They were fantastic, and everybody was so friendly. So I mean, it was really, really remarkable. And the first author that spoke on Friday, well, he was there Friday afternoon, was William Kent Kruger. And I was so excited. I found out I was coming to this on my birthday on July 19th. And then I found out, oh my goodness, William Kent Kruger is going to be speaking. And he is one of my favorite authors, fiction author. And he's been writing for many years. I think the Manitou Canyon is his 16th book in his Cork O'Connor series. If you get a chance to read him, he writes about the North Shore of Minnesota, Lake Superior, which I love. And Cork is a detective, retired police officer from there. He is a phenomenal writer. Ordinary Grace is the other book that I wanted to mention, because that is a standalone, and they just released a companion book to it. He didn't think he was going to, but he did. And the Cork O'Connor books are going to be a TV series. Ooh. So that's a big deal for a writer from St. Paul, Minnesota. I also got a chance to meet him. We were in the coffee shop before at the hotel on Friday about 6 o'clock, and I walk in and there's nobody else in there. And I go, I got to get some black coffee. And there's somebody in there on his laptop typing away. And I looked over and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, should I talk to him? And I'm like, you know what? Why not? So I went and talked to him, and he was the most personable guy and just very friendly. And when he went up to speak, I think, like Tammy was saying, you're enjoying listening to him talk. So I took a few notes. He grew up in the 50s, and when he was growing up, he mentioned the Little Golden Books. One of his favorite books was called The Happy Family. His dad would take that story, and that was the fun thing about growing up, he said, in my family. It was just this happy, perfect little family, and his dad would make, this person came in with a gun, and, he would turn the story into something totally different. And every time he read it, Dad would change the ending. Dad would change something. So when you're reading with children, to make them stay with the books and stay with reading, he spiced it up. And storytelling was a big deal in his house. Go forth, become the people you want to become. he thanked us for what we do, and he appreciated small libraries because he said a lot of times he visits, he was in Black River Falls a couple months ago in Wisconsin here, and he said, he was telling me before, he said, I love visiting little rural town libraries because we see the heartland, we see salt of the earth people. We see people that, you know, come from all walks of life. Everybody uses the library. And he mentioned how important it was to turn off your computers and read. Just turn them off. And probably my favorite quote from him was, find that quiet and feed your souls. And get out into nature. He mentioned getting out into nature. The TV series, the Cork O'Connor books, if you get a chance to read those, if you love fiction, they're wonderful. And he's just a wonderful writer. Can't say enough about him. The next author that I got the chance to meet and have him sign my book was Will Weaver. And growing up on a farm, and he being a northern Minnesota dairy farmer, he grew up on a dairy farm himself. So he wrote The Gravestone Made of Wheat, which is a compilation of short stories, but it led to one of the most beautiful movies, if you love land and rural setting, Sweet Land, the love story which took place in western Minnesota, and it had a phenomenal cast of actors in it, and it was a great movie that they made out of The Gravestone Made of Wheat. But he was another wonderful speaker. He had childhood, he talked about his childhood and going into the library and the true mix of Americans and how you saw the beating heart of American democracy in action when you went and visited your local library. And when he started writing books, he wrote for adults, but the last few years he's branched off because he noticed that the majority of your young boys kind of are getting away from reading, middle school boys especially. So he wrote a book, Saturday Night Dirt, and then he had another book called Striking Out, which said Sleep About Baseball. That one I have not read, but that led to buying a stock car and taking the stock car to local schools and enticing these young readers, you know, with a stock car. Who would think that you would go to that level to get kids, especially boys, into reading and into books? And he talked about the moral clarity of libraries, and it was right before the election when we were there. So he mentioned you can hate, Republicans are Democrats, but not hate libraries. He said there's a truth in libraries, and we are, I think our job, we're not biased. We serve everyone who comes in the door, and I think that is so true. We are the linchpin of democracy, and he thanked us, and as did William Kent Kruger. He also thanked us in the beginning for our jobs and for the jobs we do. So that was really a great. Librarian as Salesman. This actually turned out to be a little different seminar than what we expected because the gentleman that was going to be doing the seminar couldn't make it, so he had a stand-in, and I believe she worked for an audiobook company. But she was very good. I think the main thing that you take away from being a salesman, and we are salesmen whether we realize it or not, is that you want to know your consumers or your patrons, and once you get to know them, librarians have a way of making us, I mean, we trust our people trust us. We are honest, we put their needs, we don't order things that we want necessarily, we order things that our patrons want. So once we find out what they want, we fulfill their needs, and that builds the rapport and builds the trust. And we are a trusted professional. She mentioned a survey or a study that was done, and they said firefighters are the #1 trusted professional, nurses are #2, librarians are #3. So when you think about that, I mean, we don't necessarily work for a business like IBM or anything, but we serve people, and ask a librarian, I mean, you know, how much more bare bones does it get than that? So her session was kind of short. She did a lot with asking questions from us, and we got a chance to put our input in for ideas. She also mentioned like bare bones, even in big cities, when you do fundraising things, you always think of the big picture, but she mentioned going door to door and doing, like we were talking about when we did baskets for our library. We don't realize when you do these basket auctions or bring these things in, how many people are going to support you, even in these small towns. And she mentioned, you know, using word of mouth, you know, using things that may not necessarily cost a lot of money, but they are ways to get your public into the library and we're trying to do fundraising things and things, that it really helps to do that, to go door to door sometimes if you have to. Teenagers Assemble. This was I was very interested in this because, teenagers, sometimes it's harder to get them to come into the library. For me, they're probably a harder group right now. How to revitalize your teen program with a little help from the Avengers. This staff was a Utah library, and I would say the staff members were probably in their mid-20s. The director was in his early 30s. They had a very large budget, which was kind of surprising for what I was thinking for rural libraries. They mentioned the first thing that we talked about was the Nerf. They did a Nerf event, and they spent like $400 on Nerf guns, but that was like the kickoff thing that got like all the teens excited about coming into the library. They used Avengers, they used zombies. Zombies were something that they mentioned. And then when the Twilight was a big thing, they were using, the use of that type of kids to come in. Our place is a destination. What do you want for your library, use of your resources? So you have to really think about what you have and what you can offer teens. Do you have things that they necessarily want? Are you buying things that they necessarily want? Human versus zombie parties, they did those. They did movie makeup magic, where the kids were able to go in and put their own makeup on and, walk around, and they did the parties after hours. A lot of their programming were held after hours, which I was very surprised, but they had enough volunteers. They had parent volunteers too that would come in. And what was really nice is they left it up, a lot of it, once they got their teen advisory committee made and their book club members, they really let the teens kind of go with their ideas and said, hey, what do you think about this? And the teens would list some ideas for parties, and they would just let them go with that. And I think that was a phenomenal thing. They said, you think kids are going to get out of control, but they really didn't. They were responsible, and that teen advisory board was a phenomenal idea. And they did they had several book club nights. I think they did them monthly and after hours. Many of them were after hours. I mentioned the book to movie night too because I think that would be a wonderful thing, is tying the books in with the movies that come out, like the Twilight or other books like that, and prizes, offering opening night to theater tickets and things like that, just to give them goodies. And food was a big thing too. You have food and you have prizes that they want, and just to get them in the door. It's a big thing. Lost Your Library Mojo. So this is the same speaker that Audrey mentioned, and I actually have the Maslow Burnout Inventory handout. I know we can provide that too, and it was very interesting. I've been a director for 7 years, and as the only one that works in a small library, many times you do notice that you do feel emotionally drained at times. And so there's a wonderful handout that you can complete, and it has 3 sections, and then you score it and interpret it. And Section A is burnout. Section B is depersonalization, which is loss of empathy. I don't think most librarians feel that. I think most of us are the other way. I think we internalize things too much, probably. And personal achievement is Section C, and that is where you see yourself as negative and unable to move forward, or that you're stuck in a rut and you don't think you're going to get out of it, get out of the hole you're in. Causes, I know Audrey mentioned this too, the heavy workload. A lot of times in small libraries, Gail actually invited some of us to stand up if you were the one that worked there the majority of the time by yourself. And I'm sure people, you don't realize that you're cleaning toilets and you're washing windows, and anything that needs to be done in a little library, you're doing it. Not enough time for your tasks. Not enough time to get things done when you're supposed to close the door. And I think that's the way with people in a lot of jobs, is just finding how am I going to get things done. Few opportunities for advancement in small rural libraries. You're a director, you're at the top. A lot of times with budget issues, you're going to stay or plateau in that same area, and you're not going to advance anymore. So you have to be willing to accept that. Budget pressures, Audrey talked about that too. We all feel that, I guess, in libraries, public libraries, the budget pressures. And tech problems, we have those every day. Lack of recognition. Yeah, sometimes people think I get it too, where, oh, we just sit and read books. It'd be so nice to be able to sit and read books and check books out. What a great job you have. Yeah. And mentioned the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace, that was a wonderful resource for people to use. Recovery, so she mentioned getting out of the building. I actually have a handout here that's called 55 Tips to Manage Work Stress, and another handout that gives you stress relief activities that pertain to your 5 senses. So those are some wonderful resources there. Getting out of the building, many of us can't do that, but even if you go up to your Dropbox and just close your eyes and count to 10 and breathe deep, I guess that's about what you can do. Make time for professional growth, which is kind of what we were doing when we were going to Fargo. We were absolutely trying to better ourselves and our jobs, and quiet moments. We don't get very many of them, but when you do get them, take advantage of them. Reassess your goals. And I think every year most of us have to do a self-evaluation for our board, and that's a very good time to look back and reflect. Sometimes we don't do it on a daily basis, but hopefully monthly or at least every 6 months to look back at what you're wanting to do. Yes to the person and no to the task. That's very hard. Focus on the basics. Straighten out your desk, and then I mentioned the handout. Being a 21st century librarian, how to offer quality computer classes without an IT specialist. So this was a wonderful session, and they mentioned, I think it's an overloading, because you get all of those are free. So that is I guess the first thing that I would state is they are free, and if you get on our website too, we'll have links to be able to let you get to those. But the Digital Learn, they progress from the webjunction.org, I believe, is the most advanced, and then like Digital Learn were for beginning levels. And you can open up into course links. If you're walking patrons through, like we do computer classes a couple times a year, I think if you look at what levels you're going to be serving, that's the most important thing, is to try and find a website that matches the people that you are going to be teaching or guiding along. And Tech Boomers, so this is your self-paced. You can log in and track your progress, which is really nice. And they also have written lessons, which, like me, I'm more of a writing, I have to learn by writing. So tutorials are wonderful. In the next one, GCF Learn Free. There we go, tongue twisting. Ideal for patron and staff training too. So that's a very good one if you're looking at working with others in your staff that are trying to teach others. Mousercise. This is, I think, really, really good for especially your seniors or elderly too, because it actually helps them learn to navigate, and moving the mouse. I mean, I have people who come in who don't even know how to move the mouse, or if you have had a stroke, or if you have had something where your mobility is down. This is a wonderful website for those that need to do that. And I think that is.
All right. Yeah, I know we had to speed up at the end.
That's okay.
But just know that we'll have the slides and also a recording of this webinar with our voices, of course. And then the handouts that Denise mentioned up on the WVLS website.
There's a lot on the ARSL website.
Oh,
too.
you bet. Yeah. So I'll also have a link to that. And you'll be receiving an email in your inbox outlining all of those resources for you. Do you guys, we have maybe 1-2 minutes left. Do you guys have anything?
Well, I have something I want to add quick.
Yeah.
Kay and I were the only ones still there on Saturday, and author Lorna Landvik spoke then. And I was so glad that Denise talked about some of the keynote speakers who were authors, because I forgot to take notes on them. I was just sitting back and enjoying them and didn't really take notes. And Lorna, too, she's the author of Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons.
Yeah.
And she was, too, just, they were all such great speakers and entertaining, and she was really good, too. So she was there, but I didn't take any notes on them. I forgot to. I just sat back and enjoyed them.
So you guys would strongly suggest filling out the application for the WVLS ARSL Scholarship.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Right?
I'm just sad that, I don't know, can you go 2 years in a row?
I'm probably not 2 years in a
That's what I
row, but
thought.
never hurt to ask.
Next year it's in
Utah.
St. George.
And it's Labor Day week. It's in September.
Mhm.
And then after that, the following year, it's in Illinois.
Springfield.
And then after that, they said New England, and I'm looking like, New England is the state? How do you region? So they must not have pinpointed it.
Yeah.
But I did want to say the one thing that Denise talked about, I was with Denise in that salesman, librarian as a salesman. She talked about, she was a salesman herself, and she talked about how important it is to say thank you. She said, always say thank you. When she said it goes a long way if it's the person donating money, if it's the person that you help, always remember to say thank you.
I mentioned that.
Yeah.
I mentioned that
Did you?
when we were going around for the discussion because
Yeah.
I'm like, that is a big thing to
Yeah.
get people to buy into.
Yeah.
Yeah.